Sorry, I missed.
But that's not where you want to be. You want to be on the Wi-Fi.
And specific. Call this meeting of the Kent County Commissioners to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. A moment of silence in memory of those that lost their lives up in Cecilton today, as well. Thank you.
One of them that got hurt, I think, was
From Galena. November 1st this year at 1:30, Kent County Planning Commission will review the application of Morgan Creek Land Holdings LLC requesting combined concept, preliminary, and final site plan approval to use the site as a contractor's yard affiliated with the manufacturing of concrete and ceramics. The property is located at 27030 Morgnick Road in the 2nd Election District and is zoned Industrial 1 and Industrial Critical Area, ICA. The Kent County Land Use Ordinance requires the Planning Commission to review proposals to assure good arrangement and appearance and to ensure consistency. This letter was sent to us. The application and site plan are on file in the Planning Department here at 2018 at 1:30. Okay. Renville Whitman says on June 12th, that you and your colleagues voted to approve the county's fiscal coalition. Our chief financial officer and as well as our county administrator informed Mr. Whitman that because the Watermen's Association is not needed, why wasn't the $8,000 returned to the county? And without a vote by any county commissioners, how and when was this budget modification approved?
not needed is not accurate. They did, that's where they wanted it to go this year, was it to help fund the Clean Chesapeake Coalition. And as far And Grant, I can assure you, I could answer it 10 times and it still won't.
For non-governmental organizations that we provide funding to, in essence, once the budget is struck.
They've had that line item for the days of Wally Miller as county commissioner, which probably goes back at least 30 plus years.
Excuse me, I didn't. And the Watermen's Association is getting $8,000.
Okay.
That's what the budget says. There has been no modification made to this budget. You can go ahead and not spend it the way they said they were going to spend it, but turn it over to somebody else without any approval from you guys.
No, it was brought.
Association, not give it directly to Clean Chesapeake.
To hold their line, to hold their space in that line item for, you know, each year they've been getting this amount of money to help fight the issues.
My understanding that you give $8,000 to the Watermen's Association every year, willy-nilly, without even a request from them for what.
They told us what.
According to Mrs. Heller, they did not turn in any paperwork at all. I asked Pat Merritt for their proposal, and she said they did not have one.
Association was to spend their allocation on the Clean Chesapeake Coalition.
That's unfortunately, you may think this is an issue, but we don't see it that way as an issue.
Obviously, you don't see it as an issue. Thank you.
No, all right.
I don't agree with
A letter from the Rockall Volunteer Fire Company. Officers, members of the Rockall Volunteer Fire Company made our jobs easier and more fulfilling. We are privileged to have been the benefit. Rockall Volunteer Fire Company wants to meet the challenge of providing the highest quality of EMTs and firefighters to provide on site to ensure faster response times and quality care for our community. The funding will also help with covering costs for new gear and equipment throughout the county, as well as the Kit and Queen Anne's Rescue Squad. We have two sets of minutes. For raffle permits from the Chestertown Rotary located at the Courage House at the Imperial Hotel on High Street in Chestertown, to be held October 20th from 12. Lions Club are having a combined gaming device used at a single event from the Betterton Still Pond Lions Club at the Betterton Fire Hall in Betterton on Main Street on November 3rd, 5:30 to 10:30 p.m. In Rockall, we'll have a raffle at the Emmanuel Church Parish Hall on Saturday, November 3rd. That the aforementioned raffle permits be approved. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously. From the Betterton Still Pond Lions Club for a fundraiser at the Betterton Fire Hall on November 3rd. Beer and wine license for a fundraising gala at the Emmanuel Church Parish Hall on Cross Street in Chestertown. Any comments for or against the aforementioned applications? Hearing none.
Second.
Parliament. Mr. Edler.
Bees, knees. President Stickers will read the notice. Record.
401 Cannon Street in Chestertown, representing D's Knees Snacks and Drinks, LLC, for a Class D beer, wine, and liquor license on and off sales on High Street in Chestertown, which shall authorize the holder thereof to keep for sale and to sell beer, wine, and liquor at retail at the place therein described at this time, at which time any exceptions to the application will be heard.
Each raise your right hand. Just for some background, this is a location that historically has had an alcoholic beverage license for many years. It was originally order. We just request that the applicant can give some testimony in support of the application and just let us know what your plans are for the establishment.
I grew up in Kent County, a product of Kent County School, and went to Washington College for a couple of years before ran out of money and had to go to Maryland. Come back gravitas that it did back when I remember it. And 2 years ago, I brought my bride back here in the back, and the three wanted to start some businesses. And 2 of them have gone great, and this is the third. We have a plan for the entire 18,000 square feet. It is hubris to say that my plan is going to be executed exactly for all that. There's a lot that can go wrong. These buildings, a lot of life. Of the 3 main properties that we have, depending how you look at it, Bar is in the best shape. So rather than missing tooth on High Street for 3 years while we figure everything out, my backers and winners and I decided real hard to fill it with furniture that we love, and it is far from a finished product, hence LTO. There is a plan at some point next year. This is we would love to serve food and to have that kitchen up and running. To us, it's more out of there as legally possible. I'm not saying I'm proud of it, but it's fun. We get a sort of advanced tailgating. We're able to get the plumbing worked out.
Very good. We also in receipt of a letter from the town of Chestertown. The mayor says that
Mr. Adler, is there anything you wish to add?
You covered it. Do you have people coming to the back tomorrow night?
They can't do it.
Okay.
This is a tavern license
Class D, yes.
because he doesn't have a full kitchen up and running.
Correct. And just a note on that, we will be seeing you again.
When I ask if
anybody have any comments? Yes, ma'am. Jamie?
I just want to say that Emily and I have both met with Naya, and he has a plan out. It's very rare that we get someone that decided to move. So we are in the
Absolutely.
I'll make
Anything
a-
else? As submitted. Any comments? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor of the license being glad you're here, glad you're tip certified. We don't want you to come back. Otherwise, we take the consumption of alcohol by I really want to be successful. We really do. And
The restaurant license.
Yeah.
Yeah, take the responsibility.
good. You do. Thank you.
It's 23, 25-year-old anyway.
Wow.
We're working on some new software, some new apps that hopefully combat that, but right now they're...
And there's another group working on.
Good night.
Dr. Karen Couch, Superintendent. Jane Towers, Supervisor.
Good evening.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, Mrs. Heller. Audited financial statements, seeking your approval for those, the final budget, seeking your approval, and also the unrestricted budget Early. He said he'd probably get here about 6:25, 6:30. So when he gets here, he'll just come right on up. And of course, Jane Towers. I'm going to turn it over to her so that she
present to you, I'm sorry, I have to get closer. To present to you the fiscal year 18 audited financial statements. The audited in November to early December. There's no findings in this report for you on a live basis. On page 14, the OPEB liability at full cost there. So it is listed there as a prior. Please.
Back
I'm sorry.
to your balance sheet.
Yes.
Net position.
Yes. Under GASB 45, and GASB 45 slowly brought it in. GASB 75, it's an automatic hit. It automatically is recorded on the financial statement.
$5 million on, I think, page 14 and 15. That's on 17 as well at the bottom.
Item 1 is going to be a net deficit of the $22,700,000, and of that is going to be $13.3 million of that. Have to record this of that, and they're seeing this reflection in their statements as well, because it's basically saying if everyone was to retire and everyone was to get a check, what is you have to of the OPEB trust, and a lot of school systems are doing the pay as you go as a liability occurs, and that's when.
Is that number, because like it's new buzz this year, that schools are underfunded, is that the number that they're?
I would say that's part of it, but that has been on our liability. I mean, for a while, you
Right,
were
the way they're
paid
making you
here,
report
we
it
were
different.
here, and then yeah.
Well, my question is because.
We'll add to it. Yes, absolutely.
Well, the county also has OPEB liabilities too, so that's.
And I to address that liability. Everyone has it on their financial statements, and I think some are trying. I have the answer, and I don't know that any other school system has the answer as far as that goes.
But there's no, I mean, you meet routinely with that because we understand it's somewhat bogus.
Well, it's bogus, but you have, if everyone were to retire and asked to be paid for X, their sick leave or whatever, that's a liability that you have to reflect. Not that
Retirement. Because they've robbed it and never put money back, and so to speak. So.
Yeah.
I had one board member when I was initially hired meeting this obligation, and it was just inconceivable to come up with a plan. It's just outside of our reach. Yeah. So we have to report it.
Or any of the local government.
Yeah.
Right. They're assuming the liability as the current year.
You can always blame it on the accountants.
And this is the statement of net position. And here has listed the capital leases. And under the long-term liabilities, you'll notice basically 1.1 million net pension liability at 2.6. The next item for you is on page 16 and 46. I'd like to draw your attention to. This is listed at 3.9 million, the liabilities at 2.4, and the fund balance at 1.4. So the total liabilities and fund balance equals that 3.9. If we drill down on page 46, breaks out the total of the fund balances. And unrestricted, you have the budget reserve that's going to be used for FY19 and the 695, the contingency of 500,000, facility repairs of 47,275, and textbooks at 15,000.
Unassigned is, you know, essentially you're saying that that would be assigned. Well, it's not listed as assigned, but obviously that
Would fall under unassigned because you haven't spent it on anything. Why does the school budgets say it is assigned when it's a contingency fund or fund balance? Why is it considered different than?
Actually, I can show you which page it's listed on as far as our accounting policies, but we have to list it as committed.
What's it committed to?
It is committed to
used in current year budget. That is what is, so it's committed to this year's budget.
That's that.
We're using it for operating costs for this year.
But you're not using the $500,000
We're using
because it's sitting there. It's not been obligated to nothing.
it, I guess, on paper, yes, it's sitting there. But to pay for our, you know, we've got over $3 million worth of grants. Like right now, we still don't have our Title I funding. So we have to front those costs. Balance or they don't have fund balance. And we have, I checked with every one of our colleagues, and everyone has fund balance. It's just reported in a variety of different ways. Actually had about $1 million, between $800,000 and $1 million. And the way that fund balance was committed, it was committed that. And what she would do is she would allocate it to the current year. It would be allocated as contingency. It wasn't used for operating emergencies during the year, and then there was always $500,000 that she assigned to the following year. That is allowed in COMAR. That is your fund. Have the 800 to $1 million that, you know, have current year, because the 695 is not allocated as contingency. It is actually supported to be able to just do business as a whole. So, you know, either we have it committed in a set-alone fund, or we allocate it to.
Yeah, I mean, I was just asking the simple question of why it's considered different than what county government is as far as a name. That's I wouldn't chastise.
It's philosophical, really, at this point.
And that's basically is because our revenues are not linear in our receipts.
Correct.
As far as the county is concerned, this is not dealing with federal.
Right, and we're not 100% funded from the county.
Right.
So, yeah, so we have, you know, funding that we have to take care of up front. Is a good example where they have 3 areas in which they hold their fund balance. They commit some to the following year. They have some in the current year. Then they might have, and then they have fund balance reserve where they actually say we're saving up for, you know, to renovate X. So they're identifying
Back to their local government leaders.
But they also save for additional things. I mean, you know, it's just what they do. We have just looked at allowed to have fund balance, and that was the only county. And talking to every one of my colleagues, that was the only county that was not allowed to. County. Based on whatever percentage they were funded, and they were writing a check back to the county. Well, MSDE said that was illegal because once and there is no, I mean, they are not going to say we're not allowed to keep fund balance, because they are. They either,
Isn't just like here, the 690.
counties are not necessarily using their fund balance for operating costs, because really you're creating a whole of your operating costs. Like, for instance, if everything that I need to support what I absolutely have to have to pay for my employees every line, I'm using $1 million of fund balance to support that. When that fund balance runs out, then I have to identify another funding source to replace that.
And we don't, if we got a revenue stream of 46.9 million, we make sure we don't budget anything above that for reoccurring cost.
Right. So designated to use in our operating costs. So we don't have. So this 695 is basically a hole that we're going to have to fill in. So okay. So let's go on.
On page 46 as well, the non-governmental funds, that is going to be Smith Trust, and then the school construction fund had a deficit at the end of the year of $15,435, and that's because expenditures occurred before we actually received the revenue for that. And the net book value of the land was $114,448.
See. She told us that the letter is at the AG's office right now, and it should be going out momentarily. Well, I guess that's what they said, but it's not momentarily. If you paid it in the one lump sum, they would not charge the interest, and they told us that the amount is actually less than we had initially budgeted. It should be in the letter that you should be receiving soon.
A couple pages back, you mentioned like buses and bus drivers. What are the numbers?
Well, we've been looking at that. We haven't had a full year's data because it started in October, but what we are seeing is to offset the cost.
We think it's going to be pretty much flat, if not just a bit of savings. So we're not for the school system to run their own buses, and quite frankly, it's not, because we are able to do our own field trips now. We're expensive, as if we were paying for a contractor, because we don't have to demonstrate a profit, and so that's the difference in that. All we put that into their contract. So when we did just at the end of last year, when we looked at what the contract would have been, we get a little bit of savings. We don't know what it's going to be like with a full year. And so that's why I hear what she's saying. We really need to have a full year's, all of the field trips back until this year. So we think there will be some more savings, and we hope to realize that as well.
That's the dollars and cents of it.
Right. Realize some savings because we have to replace some of our fleet vehicles as well. And that we're hoping that the only hurdle that we have with that is they indicated that unless we had 20 vehicles, we didn't fit into their place.
I spoke to Enterprise a while back, and they said it wouldn't be a problem. So
they indicated it when we tried to meet with them. They said they would not talk with us. So we figured we'd kind of go in together.
Roll on in.
Yeah. So we're hoping that there will be some savings that we realize out of the transportation budget, and then that won't increase our budget because we have a number, at least 7 to 10 vehicles that we need to replace. So.
On page 50, we'll bring your attention to page 50. On page 50, this is the budget to actual report. The total unrestricted expenditures were $675,000 under budget. However, the revenues were also under budget for is under budget by 1.3. And a good part of this is 400,000 and of a grant was awarded at 6:30.
So the aging schools, that will be
ended right at the end of June, and with seeking reimbursement from public school construction, we received it outside of that 60-day window. We received in that 60-day period that we have to go ahead and not record that, but you will see that next year, yes.
So will that be reflected in the FY19?
Yes.
Potentially. Everything is qualified.
the audited financials from the Board of Education of Kent County, Maryland. Any further discussion? Hearing
Wanted to present to you as well. In your folder, you have, the very back is the proposed budget. It's all in front of it is the final fiscal year budget that we are asking for your approval. But what we thought we would do is just highlight what we actually cut out of the budget to live within what we were allocated by the state and local government. So you have before went back and we renegotiated our agreements with all of our bargaining units. So that's reflected in a lot of the variances that you see there. $1,000 for those positions. Also, we reduced one tech IA position and one classroom IA position. Fund our social workers. So we do have a social worker in every elementary school. No, they wanted a counselor, which we did fund. If you look under contracted services, you'll see that there was a reduction in contracted services for $50,000. That was because we renegotiated $1,000 savings in that particular contract, but we also added into that contract a social worker. So CAP has their own social last week, so we hope that that person will come on board.
You're
Sorry, that'd be where?
At CAP, at the Alternative High School Program.
the starts, I think, January, and then you have one that starts in May. How does that happen? How do you budget for something you've already locked in for, I guess, next?
Be forecasted moving forward. When we start the year planning for FY20, we'll know that that is something we have to lock in.
We can also, as county government here, we can actually take some of that back if we need to in our next budget, and we've done it.
Right. That's positions with, and it's not always easy. And what you don't ever want to really have to do is to go to impasse. A recent case in Prince George's County where they went to impasse, and the arbitrator actually ruled in favor of the unions. And you know, I can share some of that, some of the case law with regard to that, but it is really, it just changes things. Having been in a district in my prior state where we had a union and then another school system where we didn't, it's without having to go through a union, but that's not the way it is here in Maryland.
What is the cost of that for next year? I mean, it's got to be a concrete number.
However, a good portion of that, 301 drivers. So a negotiated step for 19 was around 306.
You're keeping those bus drivers under the bus allocations.
Right.
To say that 309,000 that you had to put in this year for that, that's
Contractor and half district run. We did, it's not realistic, and it's not sustainable.
Other than whatever happens for FY20.
To account for the, for the raises that we have for this year moving forward, the full year. But, everything's with the increases that we awarded. We had to submit all of the information. Interestingly enough, when we finished negotiations, that's when MS collects. And so we got an initial ranking of our beginning teacher salaries. Last year, data was correct. And if there's no other adjustments from any other county, our beginning teacher salaries will be ranked 15. That's good.
I saw numbers where on shore, out of the 9 counties, we were like in 3rd or 4th place.
That's with the masters.
Yeah. Teacher salaries, we have masters, APC, we have so many different categories that you can look at a variety. As a matter of fact, we were looking at that because I had a Kerwin committee, and they're all over the place. All school systems are all over the place because if we look at trying to improve and trying to top end, look at Montgomery County, you're at the top end of their salary schedule. It stood out to me. You make $111,000, and that
or excused by the cost of living in each jurisdiction.
I would agree.
You may say it costs less.
She was part of a presentation that happened last week at one of our meetings, and listen, it's very scary to see the number of students that are seeking teaching as a career choice. So we've got to do something different. I mean, it's not just here in Maryland. It's across. It's not just here in Maryland. It's across.
Education, or in return for a contract for 5, whatever the case may be. Well, I think public health service was 5 years.
To one. So we do have that attraction in that if you get out your first year teacher, you can come and teach in Kent County for 5 years. And so we did an analysis in terms of looking at our teacher retention over the last 6 years. And we actually retained 97% of our new from a social studies teacher just in the last couple of weeks, but not every jurisdiction has filled all of their teaching positions. I know our neighboring county had to dissolve a high school math teaching position, increase class sizes, and just because they could not find a math teacher. So it's going to become more difficult as time goes on. Luckily, we were able to fill all our positions.
I'm glad to hear you still have social studies, because since I teach at a
you want to teach
at university, which is a little different, it's surprising the number of students at the university level who have no concept of what.
And we had a multicultural committee meeting today, and we were showing the stats, and experience, and some were in-state with a great deal of experience. So we were pretty lucky in that we were able to recruit. And so going back to the overall variance, I just wanted to note that, let me see, where was I? We had some savings in capital outlay. That's just noting the non-recurring costs that we did not ask for because of Wharton, and then the changes in FICA and pension. So I think you'll see that the overall savings in the FY19 budget from what we proposed and the final budget is a reduction of $430,000, and the total amount is 602. So, if there's anything specifically you would like us to go through with regard to the final budget, I just thought we'd do a quick and dirty. Okay, so you would ask for your approval of the final budget.
Moved. Second.
Already moved second to
We'll start
as submitted.
next year's budget pretty soon.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. What I see, relatively.
Right. It identified needs. So it was, I mean, again, it's a philosophical decision in terms of whether you take it from fund balance or you run a decision by the Board of Ed to just go ahead and take it out of fund balance, and that's where the request is.
This is another philosophical question.
It's a philosophical.
School year 19.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Already moved second to approve budget amendment number 1 for FY19. The Director of Economic Development. Okay.
It's okay.
It's his fault.
Next week is Maryland Economic Development Week, and we have requested a proclamation of the Maryland Economic Development Association. So we're here for a proclamation tonight.
Okay. And we just happen to have one. O'Neill and Janice Palmer, Upper Shore Regional Council, are active members of the Maryland Economic Development Association, a nonprofit organization among people committed to bringing jobs and capital to Maryland and promotes economic development as an investment in Maryland. And whereas of economic development, including other professionals with an interest in the economy of Maryland, and through its regular meetings, special programs, and projects, Maryland and Kent County Economic Development and the Upper Shore Regional Council are important components of the state's economic success. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed Economic Development Week to highlight the investment in partnerships that strengthens our competitiveness in Kent County, and ask all to join with us to recognize and member William A. Short, member, dated October the 16th, 2018, and on behalf of the citizens of Kent County. My privilege to present you.
Actually, what I want to do is commend you, as well as our IT staff and the rest of the staff in the county, etc. The question I have is, how can we
I can answer some of that. She does Facebook. She does everything.
Instagram, Twitter. Right.
If you follow any of that as far as public, which I get a lot of them saying, yeah, I didn't know.
We spoke at the Chestertown Rotary today, so we're going to be trying to do more outreach with different organizations to get the word out, and social media is exactly the sort of things that are on our radar. We're working on a video for the county to be able to use on our website as well as social media.
Jamie, you have an outreach meeting coming up. Can you tell the commissioners about that one?
We have a Kent County Realtors, a Realtors meeting for anyone selling in Kent County, tools on the website, and education highlights. Dr. Couch will be joining us. Amy's going to provide a planning update.
Through the arts, which is something Richard's organization, along with others, have been putting out in positive energy about the schools, citizens of Kent County, the public schools. I mean, I
have so many people say to me, I wish we had a engineering program at Kent County High School, and I'm like, we do, and it's a great program. So just sharing all the so that they have that when they're meeting with a business or a potential resident for Kent County, so that they can share that information.
When you take the sprinkler system that's mandated, 75. Some people will argue 75 to 100 to $10,000. Then you have, I think it's $12,000 a year just for the right to hook up to our sewer, and probably another 5 or 6 or a piece or a brick or hire anybody. So would we be better off to we make no headway? Would we be? I wonder if this would be a discussion. I mean, if we were to lower the water and sewer, would we be better off to lower that and then make it back on the property taxes? Plus, you get customers right away that are paying their quarterly.
That is a topic of discussion. Work with the towns, all of the towns, as well as the county, and we also need to, talk about what are the pros and what are the cons of doing that. But that is. Yep.
I think towns are considering that too.
Areas that have done that, they'll either incentivize if a new younger family or
7 new teachers. Right?
Yeah, up to $25,000 if they stay in the county for those 5 years. We can only control
we don't have anything to do with the town.
Right, but
water and sewer out there.
Your allocation fees are generally for your capital improvements. So if you have, let's say, would that result in more allocations being bought so you have sufficient revenue for the needed capital improvements?
All the systems don't.
A 5-year period.
These conversations are being had, and there are some other first-time home buyers.
I guess my argument is if people want to build and then making it up on your property taxes and your fees, and lose in attempting to do so. I don't know.
I agree. All of those are great discussions, and we've had several of those discussions recently. We need to continue them. We need to involve more parties to get more input, but definitely we feel we need to do something to spur growth and development in Kent County. We do have lots available for development, and it's been slower. I have heard some good indication in speaking to some of the engineering and surveying firms that they are working on new houses in Kent County, and they haven't had many in the past. So I do feel that it's starting to get better, but anything we can do to spur that growth and then reap the benefits of the additional revenue on the back end.
Topic, I just want to say that Billy and I were both at the ribbon cutting for the new theater. They have done I think, keep people awake in those things, but the place really looks nice. I commend them, and I've heard, already people, friends of mine going.
And but we did hear some positive reviews at the Rotary meeting today, and someone who usually doesn't have a lot of positive to hear, yes.
Anywhere.
There's a good opportunity we can keep people here rather than going to Middletown.
Exactly. And remember that Caroline County, Queen Anne's County, counties wanting and directing their staff to get them a movie theater. So that was pretty interesting, exciting.
You can go to cities and won't find an establishment like that. Library.
Library, yes.
Wonderful asset. You can count it. I mean, it's.
Thank you very much, all of you.
She's staying.
Seated for a second.
And Susan at the Upper Shore Regional Council has
development.
Okay, hope this will be quick. So I'm here seeking approval and signature on the Rural Maryland Council, Rural Maryland Prosperity and we did receive approval for an additional grant this year of $200,000. The grant will be used for the roads associated with the Dixie. It will be 60,000 square feet. The roads will be turned over to the town of Chestertown per the Development Rights and Responsibilities Agreement that was signed back. And I'm requesting approval and signature.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's properly moved, and the second to approve and sign the Rural Maryland.
Hey, that's an impressive.
Yep.
It's going to be so impressive when they're done in the 4.5-year period or whatever it takes. Just that building up there now, just to walk through that is just like.
Take them 8 months to fully put the automation equipment inside the building. So even though the building will be completed by the end of the year, it's going to take another
20,000 square feet that they are putting up for grabs for some sort of education. So whether it's a
education
with one of the colleges.
Thank you.
Good night, James.
Okay. Patricia Merritt, our county's Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, so I just have one item tonight. During the course of the year, we bring forward many budget adjustments, contingency requests, and budget amendments. So the first page really is just the amended budget at $52,673,447. So the budget is increasing by $3,192,866. The largest adjustment that we had to our budget in the fund balance section was for the fiber project. This was a rollover from last year and the purchase of the fiber. See the listing of the other smaller adjustments there. We had some additional funding needed. The fire companies are based on the assessed values every year, and projects that come from the previous year and get rolled over, so we had 657,000 of those. So that's the total of the fund balance adjustments. Requests. We had a $400,000 contingency budget, and over the year we spent about $195,000 of it was allocated to individual requests.
Have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Party move and second to approve the FY. And then
Excuse me.
Amy Mordock, our Director of Planning, Housing, and Zoning.
So I have two items for you. One is Joan Gross and Mary Waters. They entered into a HIP agreement in 2011 and have satisfied that agreement.
Approve the mortgage lien for release. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously.
Nice to see those things come to an end.
Yes. That's a 7. It's not that late.
That's a lot late.
So as you know, we've been short-staffed. And this year, just to sort of echo some of the comments that have just been made under Jamie's presentation, we are last year there were 23, and in 2015 there were 13. So we are seeing an increase.
Steady increase.
We are not seeing through the Planning Commission process was the village at Kennedyville phase. Not to develop new lots now. The redevelopment of existing lots, yes.
This might catch you off guard a little bit, but Mr. There, a little opposition to, but even for a major subdivision, if he was to plan it in county, there's, I mean, other than us adopting plan, et cetera, I mean, it's just a matter of bringing everybody to the table if that's a proposal that he would put forward, correct?
Correct. Service in a planned service area identified by the town of Chestertown is looking for is for.
Well, he would love to have the, size as far as major subdivision. Can it still be done similar to Orchard Hill as a major subdivision?
You know what? I'm reluctant to answer you completely.
Some of the conversation's been, we've made it hard. I don't think.
Oh no.
I think we can work through whatever those issues are. I think the wanted to do it, and kind of the relationship with the town, or it didn't pan out. But
his property, in terms of zoning and the town's annexation, and I know his property is included in the town's designated growth area, but not in their priority designated growth area.
Across from his farm, I can't see if somebody wanted to bring a developer in, even while the town would say, well, it's not a priority to have it out there, yet there's a housing development directly.
But redevelopment has been pretty consistent. So going back to our subdivision activity, we do see a lot of lot line adjustments. We had 20 lot line adjustments last year, so that just means that people are redeveloping their properties in general. Also, just in terms of highlights, and I know it's been a long meeting, so I won't go through the whole plan, but in terms of highlights, we've had several site plan approvals. Most of them have been for business expansions, and there was one new business that received an approval. There was a new business approval for Oddland Angel, and that is for a garden center. And Massey Airport has also expanded. You might have seen the new, very large hangar facility, and they needed a special exception agricultural zoning district. And so they received that approval and then site plan approval, and they've since built the facility, which is very nice. The Chestertown onto the animal hospital, so they're intending to expand. There was a minor expansion at a marine boat engine repair shop. Also expanded and received site plan approval. So we're seeing growth of existing businesses. There were 2 text amendments approved in 2000 on the 600-foot setback to all manure storage facilities that had previously just been, the language was specific to the Sultana Education Foundation's text amendment for a special exception use for a longer pier for safe harbor. The Chestertown wastewater treatment plan annexation was approved. They annexed their wastewater treatment facility, which was we amended the water and sewer plan to allow for a looping system in the Delta Heights water line. Variances and conditional use applications. There are several administrative variances and conditional use applications, and I would just bring cases. 7 of those 10 have been for large accessory buildings. So there's a huge desire on the part of the community, the desire to have large accessory structures, but accessory structures still have to be accessory to a primary use. So the accessory buildings wanted very large pole buildings behind their smaller homes.
Have to expand their house.
Right, they have to build onto their house. Staff spends a lot of critical area inspections, so there are a lot of those, hundreds of inspections, and in critical area violations, many of them were not. There were 19 out of the 46 cases that were critical area cases, and over half.
How's your new gentleman working out that was hired?
Oh, very well. I mean, there's a lot to that job in terms. He's doing very well with it and is picking it up pretty quickly.
But you're still one person short.
We are. We're still down a planner, and we're hopeful to have interviews. And weren't able to find a suitable candidate, so we're continuing to plug away at that.
Alcoholic beverage and tobacco inspector again.
How blessed we are.
All right. The first thing I have tonight, you have before you the 20 semi-annual renewals, license renewals. Their licenses expire October. The new licensee fingerprinted. We've had some.
The new member doesn't follow through with getting fingerprints, or if there's any problems, we'll bring it back to the board's attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think he actually went to get fingerprinted. The fee.
Approval would be contingent upon, or conditioned upon the fingerprinting.
So moved.
Second.
Party move a second to approve the 20 semi-annual liquor license renewal. Motion is carried unanimously. Stereo.
The health department for me to do tobacco education and compliance and enforcement. You have that tonight, along with the memorandum of understanding between
Tobacco Enforcement Memorandum of Understanding, and accept the FY19 Tobacco Enforcement Grant as submitted. Discussion?
I got nowhere to be.
I do.
He'd be sitting by himself only.
That's right. Wayne Darrell, Director of Emergency Services.
Good evening. I got a couple of things this evening.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. The first is Aerosol Industries for a new Vesta 911 hardware refresh and Vesta SMS system. That totals $740,493.93, and I need your approval.
Carousel Industries proposal in the amount of $740,493.93 to upgrade the 911 center. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
And we've received two grants that we get annually from MEMA. The first one is a State Homeland Security Grant Program, a part of the salary and benefits package for our emergency management planner position.
So moved.
Signature for that.
Second.
All right, move a second to approve the carried unanimously.
And the last one is the grant from MEMA from 2018 Emergency Management Program Performance Grant. It's for $67,000 emergency services.
Interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
Second.
All right, move a second to approve the subrecipient agreement. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
That's all I had formally. I wanted to let you know that we have the 3 MT positions hired. One of them started yesterday. The other 2 will be starting in 2 weeks. And then we now have 1 application vacancy because of the hiring of the MTs for the emergency service dispatcher position, and Mr. Hale's got that advertised until October 24th. So.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I had a really good meeting with their EMS staff about 3 weeks ago down there. It was very good, and they're very positive and very much looking forward to having the help getting the.
Well, this should make a big difference. So, yeah,
it's going to be a big help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully in future years we can do better.
We're also coming when we make an application next month for the numbers board for funding about $70,000 for the furniture over there. We're in talks with Queen Anne's County to occupy a dual. It behooves them to kind of partner with us a little bit, so we're looking at, as long as we can get connectivity, fiber connectivity between their building and up here to us, which I think we can do. I think we'll be sharing a backup center now on it. The only counties on the shore that are not are Wicomico, Worcester, Dorchester's getting ready to come on. They've signed an agreement with Maryland not Maryland First. Good? Any other questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
You did say we have 1 dispatcher position
open now to the 24th.
He wishes you could go first, don't you?
You got to talk. Mike, you have to talk to her.
Yeah, but you're the newbie. We always make the newbies go last.
We do what we can, but Mike has to be there till the bitter ends tonight, so it doesn't really matter.
All right. I've got 3 items for you tonight. The first item on your agenda is a bid award for the detention center fuel oil pumping system modifications. That was a capital budget for FY19. Been advertised. We got 2 bids to correct the operational problems with the heating oil pumping system, which was a 0 amount for the automatic temperature controls. So we're recommending award to that item.
To Joseph T. Richardson, Inc., for the low bid amount of $59,000, including bid alternate number 2.
We had there's some adjustments that we've got in there for we have the $50,000 that was budgeted, and then we've got $3,000 was $6,000, so about $9,000 over what we thought.
Very good.
All right. No further discussion. Probably move and.
Requesting approval of time extension agreement for use of the spray fields for additional 5 years. We have an agreement with on that. The agreement extension for the 5 years. We'll take it to January 1st, 2024. We needed to get it's been increased from the $10,000 it was before to $13,000, and that's in exchange for Mr. Dill taking responsibility for the annual planting plan and all the other stuff and work with that. So that was a good deal for us.
Second.
Properly moving second to sign the 5-year extension agreement with.
No, that's good.
The question I had as far as the planting the cover crops, will that
to the stream? So we've got flexibility to discharge to the stream, as well as now we'll be able to continue use spray irrigation, which is what we has the potential if with the nutrient trading program, we may be able to take advantage of that, being able to put more nutrients into the ground rather than discharges.
The panel is apparently welcoming Corey.
Yes.
That panel for discussion and so forth. That's kind of nice coming out of, because it all has to do apparently with the.
Going to get contacted a videographer. They may be trying to do a thing for public television to highlight the facility and everything. Yeah, Corey talked to me about him. So, yeah, I think that's a good plus, and it's a good mark for Kent County and being environmentally responsible.
That project was nationally recognized project throughout the whole country.
Yes, absolutely. And if you remember a couple months ago, we got the letter from Secretary Grumbles with the announcement. So the last item on your agenda is a general fund balance transfer to allocate FY19 funding to complete the purchase of. Got the order in. It's been submitted to Hertrich from your prior approval. They discontinued the the 18 model year, and now we're the utility vehicle. So they're looking at finally getting this in about mid-November is what we're hoping for.
Okay.
So the amount of that is
$1,987 for the purchase of a replacement utility truck that could not be completed in FY18 due to
information. If you recall, we had an increase from state highway and funding for the noxious weed program. They've come back and asked for additional wet summer. If it's any indication of what my yard looks like with weeds, I'm sure it's probably needed for good use.
I had reached out to him a couple weeks ago because so forth. They're starting to look because that final mow is not far enough
right
until now, and a lot of things are going to seed. But they jumped on that real quick. I got a letter from them. They jumped on it really quick. Offense to the way I directed it, but I didn't mean anything to them. You know, it is a good program, but you know, when people start to call us, I call Danny same way. You know,
Mm-hmm.
say, Danny.
You know, you have that little window in the summertime when everything dries up. Well, we didn't have that this year.
Another thing, have we ever I had a constituent come to me a couple weeks ago as well, and so forth. Have we ever looked into that instead of using, since Roundup's getting such a bad name, and even its offset partners, it's still got the same product in it, so.
Sure, that's certainly a possibility that we could look at. With like vinegar, you're looking at a pH type adjustment, or more acidic or basic to disrupt the plant. The ones you can get for home use. I use one on my trees that you spray for the fungus and things like that.
Well,
so that's something we can look at. Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of
Where'd he go? Where'd he go?
They're developing all kinds of organic
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a good step to move forward.
Sure.
Especially
Votes on the problem.
I'll chain them to every pole going down the road.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Get clarity, and this is probably for Dan. Prove at a different point, as soon as you bring those numbers to us, to move the funding to the Millington project. Okay,
Yes.
it kind of, when I read it in the paper, it kind of made it look like we didn't have the money. Let the money sit there for a project that we knew we had to wait for an engineer study. So, and it was just for clarification, because when I read it, I was like, that's really not what happened.
Right. We're looking at the Fairley project from a different direction, and a comment I'd gotten from a citizen was the concern that the Fairley was more of a serious issue that was being engineering, so that we look at a replacement rather than trying to pour money into a Band-Aid type approach. So that obviously, so we want to do that process, and that opened up the availability of funds that we could transfer over for the Millington project. But that was going to happen anyway, whether we had the leak or not. It's really
Not that bad. You know, it's not that bad. We were just reallocating funds until the engineer was put in front of us to hire them to actually do the project better.
Right. And next month it'll be 6 months.
We put you on a 2-year probation, didn't we?
Yeah, over 6 months.
Whatever it's worth, it certainly seemed like.
I'm in a situation now where my wife is looking at downsizing, and typical manly thing, I'm not ready to give up all my stuff. So what kind of house we get is now a big topic of discussion.
Very large pole building.
Now I know what size I got to keep. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen, and Mrs. Heller. I think I want to start the million. And if all of the unemployed people took one of those jobs, now, on the surface, if all of those people took one of those jobs, there'd still be 100,000. But there's jobs here, and that's why I said that, because you were talking about the jobs at KRM and the other positions available and everything, so I thought that factoid would... Dance instructor for the Parks and Rec Department.
Was that William's name I saw on that?
No, that's Tom.
Oh, Tom.
Tom's gonna felt good on his
my spare time.
Yeah.
Like the rumba and tango.
Meeting someplace.
Okay, so the individual listed met the minimum qualifications and had an interview that was conducted on June 14th. And based upon the interview and the years of experience of this individual, we're recommending them for hire.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and second to hire the recommended individual as a dance instructor for the Parks and Recreation Department as requested, pending successful completion of county pre-employment requirements. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
What happened was when the 3 positions were approved in the budget and during and evaluated, it was determined that they should be in a grade 4. It was recently discovered that in the budget book, the new positions were listed as the original grade 3. As a result, I'm recommending modifying the starting salary for the 3 individuals that were hired several weeks ago, and those amounts are printed there.
Question I have for you is that that was an administrative issue.
It was an error. I think when the budget was being built and the new positions were being requested, we have to kind of on the fly determine what they're going to be. It ultimately came down to they were in a grade 4. The budget book, the grade remained at a grade 3, but the salary budgeted was out of a 4. And when I made the offers, I went on off of the grade of the position and not the money. So
here's a pen for the pen and ink change.
Okay. I'll hand one off to Mrs. Merritt as well. Ms. Merritt on the way out. It was overlooked by our staff, and it just got through. So
thank you.
I appreciate making the change, though. And that's all I have, unless you have anything else.
Yeah, good.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 2 items for it will fill an unexpired. You like that? Climb the ladder. Unexpired board vacancy, term which will
on the Kent County Local Management Board, Perrin Klein, close Perrin. All those in favor say aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
For a small grant that Kent Conservation and Preservation Alliance is applying for. One is going to the Eastern Shore.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second, the aforementioned small grant applications be approved. All those in favor say aye. Motion carried unanimously.
In case you would like to go trunk or treating on October 21st, Department of Social Services is hosting a trunk or treat in Chestertown, especially those folks that don't necessarily live in communities. The second is the movie that you've heard about once or twice before, 18th at 7 p.m. at the Norman James Theater, which is in the William Smith building of Washington College. And the second is Thursday, October 20th, to a high school senior who lives in Kent County by answering one of two essay questions that Kent Goes Purple is sponsoring to encourage families. Is a letter from the Maryland Department of Environment, or to the, Maryland Department of Environment from the county. Wastewater treatment plant to the new Betterton wastewater treatment plant. Okay. Second, a letter from Cindy Stone, Director of Rehabilitation Program, since we're not currently seeking applicants for that program. And the third is a letter from Secretary of Kent County. Department of Health. No action needed on any of those items.
Somewhere it was terribly misconstrued that the county commissioners perhaps were against having more beds at the Whitsitt Center in the vacant wing there. And everything else going on. So I put that to rest, I guess, 2 nights ago. I followed up with colleagues via email. I don't know how something like that gets so... This epidemic that's going on is just... so that's been cleared up at the state level, and it's being addressed at the state level, et cetera.
I can't even remember us discussing it, let alone...
Right.
And anyone and everyone who would be interested in the opioid intervention team crisis meetings, that they are first at the local drug and alcohol abuse council meetings, which are mandated by annotated code to happen once a quarter with various are discussed, including Whitsitt Center needs, wish lists, peer counselors, thanks to the Sheriff's Office and the Detention Center and OES. So those meetings are available to the public, and everyone is encouraged to attend.
Had these kind of issues, but this summer it was major. I mean, I've got several kids that my kids went to school with that it come back, and it's luckily none of them that I've known personally have died, but there's been several that near death.
I'm very careful.
It's bad. You know, it's bad to see that perception changing faster, I guess I would say. You know.
County Commissioner's concern was the use of alcohol, especially by those that are underage. At one point, Kent County was
Billy's not considered a teenager.
not anymore.
Why are we getting picked on?
Beer.
I love beer.
An actual death in this county for a while now. It doesn't mean that we are immune from what's going on around us in the
carry it. So it's there. That's the only reason there hasn't been a lot more deaths.
And some of that is classification of data as well. Overdoses that are reported to a paramedic, they may not be seeing one that just happens at grandma's house when
Across the river.
as Kent County residents. So if one of our residents goes to Baltimore, is that captured in the set of data that you're looking at? And
It's happening.
It is. Everyone else is doing it.
Come from wealthy homes, poor homes.
Yep.
there's no stereotype.
No, not at all.
Any
That court action that we were. Pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing that later.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
Good. All right.
The original funding that you granted to Kent Preservation Alliance has been put towards the cultural landscape assessment. We're now getting in the draft much larger from Midshore, which we hope to be the foundation for another grant that we're going to put forward to Maryland Historic Trust. Because at least a half-hour film video. We've been encouraged to possibly do that as a major production for that we have a little bit of funding left over from the cultural landscape assessment to be able to do the preliminary work so that we will have documentation that we can give to the film of the county, and we're really looking forward to it. We're pretty excited about it. We're asking right now, I think we've got $15,000 from Midshore, and we'll ask for an additional amount of such importance that we'll be able to get private funding on top of that. That's kind of where we've been talking about it. We are going to have a meeting with a lot of people in the county, the cultural landscape, and also we were able to tap into Native American and the archaeological resources that we have here done for us. And we'll be able to layer those on top of old maps to show how the landscape evolved and how it looks almost. So we're looking forward to having the report done. We're a little bit behind times, but we're also access to. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? We have. Jamie has something else to say.
Okay. Motion to go into closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on legal matter, to consult with staff.
And reasons. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.